This is Baldermort's Night Lord's lore video. He gave me a couple to take a look at, but I picked the Night Lords first because, frankly, they're my favorite Trader Space Marine chapter. Primarily because of Konrad Curze is a fucking nut job. In any case, we're gonna go ahead and get started on this. Hope you guys enjoyed as much as I think I am. I like the music. Already, I like the music.
Fun. So much fun. Since the Kickerticks opened, it has been never-ending fun. The spoiler broke the borders, opened the gates of heaven, and now we can to and fro with impunity. The corpse gods, men.
Is he doing a little segue as a Night Lords? Oh boy.
Our former brothers, they...
Okay, so real quick to explain, if you don't know what the Night Lords are, the Night Lords were, when they were a legion before the Horse Heresy, they were the Emperor's terror weapon. And by what I mean by terror weapon, they were a legion entirely comprised of torturers. Entirely comprised of torturers and sadists. The sheer mention of them being sent into a combat zone, like if the Night Lords were sent into a group that was, kind of looking like they were going to rebel, and then all of a sudden they heard the 8th Legion was on its way, they would happily, at that point, pay all ties, outstanding ties, anything, just to not deal with the Night Lords, because holy shit, that's the worst possible thing. There's two things I would never want to have happen to me. The second is to be captured by the Night Lords, because holy crap, they're inventive. And the first is the Dark Elves. And the reason I say the Night Lords and then the Dark Elves is because the Night Lords, eventually, they will let you die. The Dark Elves, not so much.
Cannot defend everywhere, cannot be everywhere. So we hunt. We hunt like we have never been able to hunt in a very long time.
No.
What is time to an immortal? I digress. So, my warband and I have found a world ready for the plucking, a juicy herd of ape things to play with, and oh, how we have been playing. It has all been work for me, not enough play. Destroying their defences, corralling their meagre defenders, breaking them. My boys are too enamoured with playing. They forget how hard I have to work to make them do the things that are required for us all to have uninterrupted play.
Oh.
But that has now finally been achieved. The threats all removed. Now we feast. Now we play.
No.
This hive has now fallen, as the corpse god's minions and lickspittles would lament. We control its light, its heat, its every road, its every access point. Time to turn off the lights.
Oh, fuck
Time
no.
to cover it with our cowl. The dark, the blessed.
No. I'm so glad it's daytime I'm watching this.
Dark. It brings out the best in the herd. My part is done. The playground is prepared. Time for us all to have some fun. Not just my boys. No. Now it is my turn. I cannot neglect my duties, my role, my rule must always be maintained. I must watch my boys and make sure they are loyal, or I will be the one to be played with as I did my old master. He should not have lowered his guard. He should not have lowered his guard. No. Weak, he was weak, so he became my toy. But now I have them all playing. I have them all playing, so I can sneak in a bit of fun myself. Drat, I will only get 48 hours at a push. Is it time enough? Is it enough time? I think so. I have become so very good at what I do. I make friends. I can do this in time. Yes, I can. I can do this. But it must be a special friend. A friend worthy of the knowing. For I must know them inside and out. Oh, yes, a new friend. But whom? As the ape things run hither and thither, I set to choosing. So much choice. As they run from the explosions, as they flee into our sentry guns and get cut down, I laugh. I laugh. They are so amusing. We set off alerts, evacuation orders. At first they did not run, so we levelled a few hab blocks. Now they run into our guns, run into our clutches. My pretty birds fall on them and take their pick, dragging them into our home, the darkness, flying like pretty birds and snatching one here, one there, taking them back to a nest ready for the fun. I have one already set up. When we first pushed into the hive, I found it and prepared it. I must find my friend and get them there. Some, like the big ones, they think that they will last longer, and will be able to keep up for longer. I know this is not true. The big ones have always been big. It means they have less to tell me. They have less to define themselves outside of their being big or boring. Our newest initiates often like the small ones, the little ones. They have more fire. They've had to be more snappy to get by. But this is often a facade. When you get past the gnashing of teeth and squealing and shouting, little ones are just little. They offer a certain titillation, the wrongness of it, to the newest initiates. But this is the first stage. Doing things because they were wrong is passé. I tired of it centuries, millennia ago. Now, I need a good friend, an interesting friend. A friend worth knowing. Yes, a friend worth knowing. Amongst the wailing crowds, I see two candidates. Medium size, wiry, fast. Let us see. The sentry guns open up as the throng turns the corner, fleeing another slowly slumping hammer block. Controlled explosions designed to permit the inhabitants to run. The first rank of ape things are torn apart by bolt sentries, exploding like fountains. All the flock attempt to turn away, but the back of the flock still surges forward, fleeing their sinking homes, so they push their fellow ape things forward into the boom splat. Fountains all, I startle, titter. I must watch my candidates. One has stopped. He has a darkening patch around his groin as he pushes his way through the crowd in panic. He seems like he might be a boo-hoo-hooer, like our father Curze. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boring. Oh, the other. He breaks from the herd. He runs, but he is looking up, down, around. He is searching. I like him. Aware of the threat from all angles, his instincts are strong. I like him. I must know him. I must make him my friend. Yes, it will be him. I follow him. He is fast. He is fit. He takes care of himself. Good, good. With a grenade here, bolt shot there. I change his course, his direction. Always he is fast to react, always without hesitation. I have chosen well. I guide him to where I can play. Into an old warehouse. None are there now. I made sure of that. I chose this spot. No, none will know where I am here. I can play without interruption. I am there. When he comes in through the door, I left it open. He runs inside. He immediately hides. Good. He controls his urge to keep running. Not exhausted, but intelligent. One can hear running. He is clever. I start the fun. I walk slowly but heavily. My foot falls resounding on the metal grids. I can hear him. His breath stops. He can definitely hear me. But he does not panic. Oh, he does not hold his breath and just stay in situ and close his eyes, as the little ones do. He starts to reposition. Well done. Oh, what fun. He finds the weapons I placed there. He reaches up and delicately, and so slowly, takes one of the stubbers, so quietly. Impressive. I have chosen well. I descend the stairs dramatically and heavily. He knows where I am, I'm sure. I can see him in the dark, but he cannot see me well. So I take a few more steps, and move into the light so he can have his opportunity. I look around slowly. He must think I wish seclusion. I am checking that I am alone. I reach up and slowly take off my helmet, brush my hand over my head, and take in a deep breath and exhale slowly, like a tired ape thing after a long day. At peace, vulnerable. He has not done it. Oh. I turn my back, giving him that little nudgy nudge. He can still see my head. Oh, and it is so vulnerable. The stubbers have scopes. How much more of an invitation do I need to give him? Ah! A piercing pain snaps the back of my head as the clamour of a single discharge echoes around the warehouse. I try not to giggle as I slowly fall onto my knees and then forward to the ground. There is blood, for certain. I can feel it trickle down my neck, then across my head and into my face as I lay there dead. Of course, the stubber was strong enough to break skin, but not to pierce my skull. I am not an idiot. So much blood. Head wounds. He buys into the fun. He finally lets out a slow and steady exhale of breath. He has control for an ape thing. I chose well. Brave. He comes to inspect the body to make certain. He stands above me for a moment. He is weighing up the risk of shooting again. The sound could attract my boys, but he so wants to make sure I am dead. It is then that I simply cannot control myself. I wish I had been able to draw this out, but I start.
No, fuck no. No, fucking no. Fuck no. Fuck that shit, no. No. Hell no. Oh no. No. Oh man, I gotta hear that again. That was creepy as fuck.
I am dead. It is then
again.
that I simply cannot control myself. I wish I had been able to draw this out, but I start. I roll over, tears coming out of my eyes from the mirth. I hope he tries to shoot me again, tries to execute me. So much fun! Oh! I have to roll forward and snatch the gun from his grasp as he puts it in his mouth. Thankfully, I'm in time. Man. Clever. He nearly ruined all of my work. He is a wily one.
Won't even let him kill himself.
Well.
What the fuck?
So I flick his temple and knock him out. Yes. He wakes on the lovely board I have prepared for him. His eyes stay closed at first. He does not wish to look. But unlike so many, he then opens them wide as a challenge. He snaps them open. He knows what he will see. This one is clever. His face does not change its expression of anger or hate. He knows. I speak to him. You are impressive, my friend. 1 in a million. I feel you could have been a commissar. Had your history been different, your birth, your station. I want so much to know you, inside and out. He honks and spits at me. I am right. He had such potential. He will be an honor to know. And it was. He lasted so long. No boo-hoo, no. Screaming, of course, especially with the nerve augmenters I shared with him. He had to feel everything. It was the least I could do for a friend in the last hours, to be truly alive and experiencing everything to its fullest. You see, I am a good friend. Even when I showed him his spleen, no boo-hoo. Even when we both looked at his genitalia up close. Even when I showed him his still beating heart. I honor him. I do not leave him as a wormy, zipped up and floppy flop on the floor in the dark, no arms or legs. He is better than this. He was a good friend. My boys have finished playing and now level the hub blocks left over. I allow my friend to see the vids that prove he is the last member of his hive to go, an honor he has deserved. I then finish him. He looked like he would betray himself and begin to boo-hoo. I save him from that. He was a worthy ape thing to know.
No.
Welcome, gentle listener. I apologize for the severity of this introduction, but there can be times when the threat, the terror, the horror of an enemy can be denuded by being too distant, too hypothetical. I felt it was necessary to show rather than tell.
I can appreciate this. I really can. This is good.
The true threat of this, one of the most dark and terrible groups of beings in the entire grim darkness of the future. For today, we will now go into a very brief introduction to the 8th Legion of the Legiones Astartes, the Night Lords. Please remember that this is an introduction only. Should there be the appetite, I will engage in further entries for this, one of the most terrible forces to stalk the galaxy.
I'm really liking this. I really like this sort of thing. Like, I know a lot about the Night Lords, and even now I'm just sitting here like, okay, let's hear about it.
For they have been set loose by the opening of the Cicatrix Maledictum. The 13th Black Crusade smashed the bottleneck of Cadia and opened that rent across the entire galaxy. Now they can go back and forth with ease, foraying into the material realm, then retreating back to the warp at a whim. The Warhammer 40k setting has become a thing of even more grim darkness than ever before. To quote, "My sons, the galaxy is burning. We all bear witness to a final truth. Our way is not the way of the Imperium. We have never stood in the Emperor's light, never worn the Imperial Eagle, and you never will. You shall stand in midnight clad, your claws forever red, with the lifeblood of my father's failed empire, warring through the centuries as the talons of a murdered god. Rise, my sons, and take your wrath across the stars in my name, in my memory. Rise, my Night Lords." End quote.
Konrad Curze.
Konrad Curze, Primarch of the 8th Legion of the Legiones Astartes, the Night Lords. Truer words have very seldom been said in all of the grim dark, for the 8th Legion were not akin to any of their brother Astartes. Where they had shining armor and a bold image of their own worthiness and righteousness, the 8th were under no such illusions, even from their inception on Holy Terror. For when the Emperor of Mankind designed his 20 Primarchs, from which his 20 legions of Space Marines would spring, he calculated all of the facets and forces he would require. His intent was to form the perfect army, the perfect warriors, the perfect tool for him to not only take every star and system of the Milky Way galaxy, but also to then hold them. For this he would need many tools, for each of his Primarchs was to be a mighty general with the most...
This is what I've told people before too. Each one of them had a particular thing that they would fill in the nascent Imperium. But
formidable force the human race has ever produced, the Space Marines. Each legion of Astartes, Space Marines, was to have a very specific role. Indeed, each would be able to wage war the likes had never been seen, but each would also have a niche, a specialization. Many were shining knights of honor and power, designed to represent the greatness and goodness that resided in the breast of humanity. They were to be paragons and glorious examples that could be displayed to all of the universe as the best of what it was to be human. Not so for the Night Lords.
Yeah, when you think about the Paragon legions, like the Great Legions, you would think, of course, about the Emperor's Children. You'd think about the Ultramarines. You'd think about perhaps the White Scars, because they were kind of like a wild and free kind of group. The the Imperial Fists. Those are the ones that you'd sit there and put forward, and the Blood Angels for the most part, mainly because they're Primarch. But some other legions, like Angron's World Eaters and the Night Lords, well, the Word Bearers will be in the Paragons as well until they, oh man, this is a good video.
For every organization, every government, every military need have those who will follow orders, will do unspeakable things without complaint or resistance. Forces that will elicit terror in their enemies and allies alike. For the Emperor knew that his race was fractious, and that the combined goal that they worked toward would not be enough for many. He knew that it was inevitable that some of his fellow humans would become greedy, would lose purpose, would seek to aggrandize themselves at the first opportunity. The master of mankind, who had witnessed every age of humanity from their earliest forays into civilization all the way through the golden age of technology, and even through the calamity of Old Night, the age of strife, where humanity almost gutted out. He knew his race. He knew that many would simply bend the knee while his armies were present, only to renege on their oaths of fealty the instant he had departed. So, being the shepherd of all of humanity, he knew that he needed to have a deterrent. He needed to have a healthy respect from all of those worlds brought into compliance, but also a very necessary fear. Only in this way could he be guaranteed that one most elusive of all things, unity through loyalty. Humanity simply had no choice in his mind, or he would not have arisen, would not have thrown off his cloak of secrecy and taken the reins of direct power and leadership. Humanity had to be unified, or would be wiped out from his perspective. One that was very hard to argue with, considering the horrors of the Age of Strife, where Xenos, aliens, and demons had dominated and annihilated so many of our race. Hence, not all of his Primarchs, not all of his legions of Space Marines, could be the examples of virtue that was allotted to many. He needed a tool of fear, a bringer of terror. He needed a force that would be used to scare his people into staying compliant, to staying loyal. He had his Night Lords. The Primarchs were stolen by the powers of chaos and spread throughout the galaxy, but still the legions had character, and were employed without their fathers, the Primarchs, to lead them. The 8th, the Night Lords, were recruited from the most brutal prisons and pits of despair in all of Holy Terror, the present name of Earth, the cradle of humanity where the Emperor began his empire, his Imperium. They were scum. They would blanch at no activity, would bring a level of ferocity and sadism to their campaigns that would act as a deterrent forever after. When the Emperor had dominated all of Terra during the long and bloody Unification Wars, his instinct was proven right. Almost immediately, one of his defeated allies, the Saragorn Enclave, turned and rebelled. They continued to tinker with genetic engineering, were attempting psi-breeding, eugenics to attempt to create powerful psychers, a practice utterly banned by the diktat of the Emperor. The master of mankind was informed, and is reputed to have said just 3 words. Just 3. Send the 8th. The 8th Legion were deployed and assaulted the Enclave, but they did not roll in with tanks and overwhelming firepower alone, as other legions would. They made a bloody horror of the entire region. They hunted and tortured each and every person there. They wiped the entire population away with a viciousness that was beyond belief.
That's what you
With
said
this
before.
as an example of exactly what would happen if any rebelled, Terra stayed loyal. All of it. This was the way of the Night Lords. Fear. To act in such terrible and sadistic ways that entire star systems would then surrender to them when they had witnessed their savagery. It was true that any rebellion throughout the stars was almost instantly quashed by the mere mention of their name. Many a governor would toy with the idea of declaring his world independent of the Imperium, as humans are so oft willing to forget their own history so swiftly. The scars dealt to them during their domination and compliance would often lose their sting over a mere generation, but the threat of the 8th would dispel their errant dreams very swiftly. The mention of them alone was enough to loose the bowels of most. So even before they eventually turned to evil, theirs was never a force that could ever be described as good, as such a thing exists in the grim darkness of the future. When they were reunited with their Primarch, Konrad Curze, they changed very little. When some legions found their Primarchs, it was either a magnificent time where they were enhanced and saved by their sire, as in the case of the Blood Angels and Sanguinius, or it was a time of change, as in the case of the Death Guard. But few legions were left without some form of transformation when their genetic father and spiritual leader, their Primarch, was discovered. But this was not so for the Night Lords. Curze's world was not a place that would ever engender a good man to arise from it. Despite Konrad being genetically predisposed to try to seek for justice, for law and order at every point, his methods were twisted by his early years on the world of Nostromo. For it was a cesspit of lawlessness, a horror of a world where survival of the fittest was the only law, and murder, rape and massacre were nightly events. They were, until Konrad subjugated the world through fear alone. But this is a tale for another time, when we can discuss the tale of Konrad Curze in full. It was the habit of the Emperor to gift the world of that a Primarch had grown up on, had usually dominated, as Konrad had Nostromo, as a recruitment world for their legion. As such, the 8th's recruits were from that world, and had a part of its darkness. Later, Nostromo was to only give reinforcements from the worst and most vile of all of its denizens. The Night Lords started badly, but would get progressively worse as time went on, as each and every Marine was a travesty of a thing that could barely be called human, and it was even before they were trained and used by the Night Lords to perform their reigns of terror. For the Night Lords would take pride in their work, but their goals were not the same as their Primarch. For Konrad thought that the ends justified the means. The horrific butchery of one city, not just the callous extermination, but the torture of his entire population over an extended period while being broadcast to all surrounding areas, would then lead to the entire world surrendering out of fear. In this, Konrad could very realistically state that his tactics and strategies did not affect infrastructure and would mean a tiny proportion of the casualties that would have been created if another legion had invaded honorably. And he was right. But the fact remained that his legion did not have his ideal at their fore. Their eye was never...
Yeah, I'm going to pause it right there. Just add a little bit to that. It was a major source of contention between Konrad and pretty much every other Primarch that he ran into. He didn't view any of the Primarchs as being close to him or friendly to him. He just really didn't. The only one that he kind of held a kinship with was Sanguinius, and that's because they both shared the gift of foresight. But Conrad was utterly obsessed with fatalism. And most of that is because of the world he grew up on. But um, their method of war it was horrendous, but at the same time, it I mean, it created the lowest impact and highest reward. But he could never get any respect from the other Primarchs, even though they were, they had their own roles to fill. So it was kind of just a annoying thing for me when I would read some of the lore and find that you know oh the Primarch of this legion hates this guy because of the way he conducts warfare. Well, that's the way he was designed to wage war. From the ground up, that legion and the Primarch behind it were designed to wage that particular kind of warfare. So it just kind of annoyed me a little bit. It's another one of Big E's failings before the Horus Heresy, and he did make a lot of mistakes before the Horus Heresy. Some of the biggest were the way that he handled the Word Bearers and his handling of Angron in its entirety. And I think he should have smacked the shit out of Perturabo, or at least let him build some things. But that's neither here nor there. I really can't stand Perturabo as he's written a lot of books because he's just a fucking man-child. But maybe if he got to build a couple of things, he would have been a lot less unhappy. Anyhow.
On the ends, just the means. They did it because they could butcher and torture indiscriminately. They did it because they enjoyed it. And so Konrad eventually ended hating his own legion, something he was never shy of letting them know either. He went mad. His legion was declared rogue even before the drop site massacre on Istvan V, but was still ordered to act in that assault, one which would turn out to be an utter betrayal, as the Night Lords turned traitor and helped massacre the 3 loyalist legions of the first wave. But I will go into the massacre at Istvan in more detail in the future. With the Heresy now in full swing, Konrad did not so much follow Horus, but rebel against his father, an act of spite, perhaps, for the poisoned chalice that was passed to him by the Emperor of Mankind, to be built to strive for justice, but to lead a legion he despised, to perpetually perform actions he could never actually forgive himself for having ordered performed. But the Night Lords have never really gone fully into the fold of the other legions that began the wholesale and emphatic worship of chaos. Although there are some faithful amongst the legion, theirs is not a religious crusade. For them, following Abaddon on the path of chaos is not about zeal or serving their new dark gods. It is simply that they can now do whatever they wish, to whomever they wish. The chaos gods leave them be. Konrad was slain, despite being one of the most powerful combatants of all of the sons of the Emperor, but he let his legion know he despised them before the deed was done.
Alright.
A deed he even permitted. Since that time, the Night Lords have been a thing of terror, not for, but against the Imperium of Man. The true levels of their viciousness I hope you gained from my introduction, but I shall one day go more into their tactics and more of their history. For the time being, I hope, gentle listener, that you can see why the forces of chaos are feared, and why the Imperium is the way it is. In the face of enemies such as the Night Lords, perpetually a threat, perpetually just one slip away from penetrating your defenses and letting their evil loose on any sector, one can do nothing but become a thing of tyranny to prevent the greater evil. And at least, this is their argument. For the Night Lords are the thing that comes in the night. They are the lords of sadism and fear. They are the lords of the night. And the opening of the Cicatrix Maledictum means that they can go near anywhere, at any time. Nowhere is now safe from their predations. The beast, as they say, is well and truly abroad.
Nice. Oh, okay.
I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope my introduction to the Night Lords has been enlightening, no matter how unpleasant. If so, then please do consider liking and subscribing.
Okay, so that was Baldermort. Let me go a little bit into some stuff. Um, Konrad Curze, Sanguinius had the gift of foresight, but it didn't torture him. Konrad, his did torture him. He saw the heresy before it even happened. When he first met the Emperor, um, he looked at Rogel Dorn and he saw him dying alone, being ripped apart by his enemies. He looked to Sanguinius, who was there as well, I think, and he saw him dying in an act of betrayal. But when he tried to look at the Emperor, he nearly lost his mind. Um, Konrad Curse allowed himself to be killed, and he's the only Primarch to ever be killed by a mortal. And the only reason that the mortal was able is because Konrad forbid anyone from interfering. His assassin's name was M. Shin, and um, she killed him and ran. And of course, his final order to his legion you know, was not obeyed. He wanted the assassin to be able to leave. And when she killed him and then ran, of course, he already knew that his final order wasn't going to be obeyed. His assassin was ran down, killed, and they basically took trophies. Um, he hated his Night Lords, and it kind of the thing about it was he could never talk to anybody and get them to listen to him before he truly went off the deep end. And when I say truly went off the deep end, he flew head first. Um, when he said that they were considered rogue before the Battle of Isfahan, before the actual heresy kicked off, that's because he destroyed his own homeworld. And the reason he did that was because he found out that he was getting substandard recruits because of greed. And he was not he was not good at maintaining his legion, and that's why it was it was able to happen like that. He just was not good at maintaining his legion, um, primarily because the visions he was having was driving him insane. When he first started to um, basically go on the Great Crusade, he cleaned up his act. He tried to look the part, but he slowly just began reverting back to the feral animal that he was on Nostromo. But God, this was a good one. The introduction was freakish, but hey, I like the recommendation. Um, I'm gonna be checking out more of this stuff, but I will see you guys again next time.